The Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out there anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding Him hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book and the truth will make you free. The Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited. Shalom, 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 brothers and sisters. Shalom, shalom, shalom. I'm Elder Rick Harshaw, the Gathering of Christ Church, here with our weekly Patreon update. Shalom to my brothers and sisters throughout the four corners of the earth. We're going to have something a little different today for the Patreon update. And this dovetails off of seeing that particular Netflix series, not series, but production by Jamie Foxx, Who Cloned Tyrone? Now, I don't know how they allowed that brother to come up with that particular production, but it said so much, and it led me to go into this and talk about this today as far as the experiments that were done on our people, in particular the tribe of Judah, here in America. Not that it only happened here, but the eugenicist had an orchestrated, that's right, focus on Judah. And I'm going to talk about these experimentations today. And I'm going to also talk on Patreon. We're going to discuss solutions, okay? Phone call 515-605-9327. I didn't set up the blog talk yet, so I'm going to set that up between segueing from here to the Patreon. And if you would like to be a part of this, it's Patreon/AGathering144 to be a part of it, okay? All right, we're going to talk about this, and I'm going to show you what we'll be going into on Patreon today to give you a little snippet, all right? Before I do that, let me announce we are in week, I think, 6 of the Academy. Yes, week 6, we're in the Academy this Sunday discussing the power of the Ark of the Covenant, finding the Ark of the Covenant. Where is it today? It was prophesied that that particular artifact at the very end would be given back to God's people. The greatest clean weapon ever known to man. And that's right, the Ark of the Covenant. The power of the Ark of the Covenant is what I'm going to go into this coming Sunday. And this is why, another reason, there's theorists out there to why Pharaoh and his army began to chase Moses and Aaron coming out of Egypt. Because not only did they take God's people, they also took the power source. That power source was in the Ark of the Covenant. That's right, folks. The first towers, when it came to power in cities, before there was nuclear, which is really dirty energy, there was clean energy that the Most High had us with in Egypt before the Exodus. And when we left, that's right, the lights went out. The Ark of the Covenant not only was a life source, okay, was a light source of electric and power and all that. But keep in mind, folks, Tesla got his technology of clean energy on how to actually fuel a city without using one wire from that particular technology, and that paled in comparison. The Most High had our prophets hide this particular ark, and this is why the powers that be have made movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark and others, highlighting what? The power of this particular artifact. Did it exist? Where is it? Yes, it exists, and yeah, we know where it is, and it's not in Ethiopia. We're going to go into that and portals, because why? When the Most High began to bring Israel back together, the unseen realm will come into light. And while we're in the wilderness, when we flee into the wilderness, Africans and others, because Africans there's going to be a campaign to destroy Africa that's going to lead to what? Them getting on the Nile and other highways once the waters dry up to go into, that's right, the same area we were once in before. That borders Saudi Arabia, the wilderness. The Most High will open up that realm, and Israel, our people, will have access to the Ark of the Covenant. I'm going to talk about that along with the theories that they have put out there to redirect our people concerning this powerful, powerful weapon that was held by the priest of Levi. No longer is it about Levi taking hold of it, because there's a new priesthood after the orders of Melchizedek. And those who are in Christ will have access and will be able, that's right, to wield the Ark of the Covenant. That and more this coming Sunday. You don't want to miss it. History, archaeology, finding, that's right, the Ark of the Covenant. I hope you all will be a part of it, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the research. Now, jumping right into this real quick, all praises be to the Most High, Ahaya, Ashar, Ahaya. The Most High, God of Israel. His name isn't Yahweh, it never was. His name isn't Yahweh, it never was. That was a misdirection. It was really, that's the God of the Shashu, which in Egyptology are the Shemitics, or not just the Shemitics. Esau was called the Shashu. And Yahweh is their God, Baal, whom they sacrifice children to, okay? So you can stay with that if you want. God's name is Ahaya. The witches and warlocks are coming out right now and saying, we tricked the Christians again. You're still calling on our God. Hey, it's on you if you want to believe that. Or you can believe what God told Moses. Ahaya, Ashar, Ahaya is his name. You can get with this or you can get with that. But anyway, jumping right in. Who cloned Tyrone? Experimentations. Did experiments happen, and are they still happening today? And we're going to go into that. But I want to go into a tamed lion by the name of Judah, which was prophesied. What tamed lion? Well, it tells us in Genesis 49:8, right here, if you can follow us, brothers and sisters. The tamed lion. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Why do you think Christ gets so much respect and notoriety throughout the earth, regardless of not just our people, but even Gentiles honor our King? That's right. By denouncing their gods and turning that into the belief in our King Christ. There's some power to that. But this is speaking of the 12 brothers, the 12 tribes of Israel in particular right here. Thou art he whom thy brother shall praise. So Judah in the last days, according to our father Israel, Jacob, would be the trendsetter for all of the tribes of Israel. That's right. We would become the trendsetters. They would look at Judah, fashion, how we deal with art, how we operate when it comes to music, ingenuity. Judah would be the trendsetters for all of the tribes, and by default, the world would follow. Judah is the trendsetter. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemy. To tell you, the head is the top, and the top, whose Esau would keep Judah close, understanding Judah's influence. So Esau would keep Judah at the neck, close to him, watching him, pacifying him, right? Why? To understand, because they would understand Judah's influence, right? So they would keep us right next to them. They're at the top and we're right there next to them at all times, so that they can utilize our influence for themselves and do what? Counter our people when we begin to understand how they're using us. So they had to keep us close in case what? We can use them because they have influence, Judah. But also, if they break bad, we can then begin to calculate against them, right? Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies, for thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Judah is a lion's whelp, a young cub. You know that young cub that they showed in that movie years ago, Lion's King? That young cub who was meant to be king, raised by hyenas. But guess what happened? They could not stop him once he understood his true purpose to be king. Wandering in the wilderness in Lion's King. His evil, scarred uncle seeking to destroy him or keep him from the throne. That's Esau. But that's our brother, but that's Esau. Allowing us to wander in the wilderness, being raised by hyenas. Sounds like our community, right? They hide a lot of their esoteric plans within their productions. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down. He couched as a lion. And as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? When is Judah going to come back to God and understand his purpose? Who's going to rouse him up? I'm going to tell you who's rousing Judah up. God himself. God himself. We have sat in. We have marched. We have rioted. We have boycotted. And still destroyed. So the only way is God's way, getting back on code to operate in our Father's name, Judah, and to do the research on how powerful Judah was in connection to his God. And that leads us to that so-called production, that production I seen yesterday, which was profound. Who cloned Tyrone? It's deeper than, they're using clone metaphorically. And I seen that. It's not about the science of cloning. It's about reproducing the same type of guy over and over again. This self-destructive behavior from one generation to the next that keeps them what? In power over us. He stooped down and he couched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, which means we were meant to be kings, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh comes. That's right, folks. Judah as king also controlled the whole kingdom, including the lawyers, including Levi. He was able to use Levi's power as lawgivers. That's right, to execute righteous judgment. So that tells us that Judah also have the power to do what? To enact law, or do what? Operate lawlessness, under lawlessness and chaos. But whatever we do, the world will mimic. There's no wonder, folks, why they focus on toxicity, destruction, and debauchery and place that on Judah in particular. Why? Because they're seeking to use that influence to bring in the New World Order. The whole world will follow and eventually what? Collapse in on itself. But Judah can see now. I hope so. I hope so. Understand what God says right here before I show you what we'll be diving into. Hold on, my Patreonies. We have a great Patreon production today for you. I'll put it together for you. Jeremiah 51. Let's read it. Let's talk about it. And this isn't speaking anything negative on the other tribes. The other tribes benefit from Judah standing in its rightful position according to prophecies. All the tribes benefit when Judah operates in righteousness, right? So let's talk about this. Jeremiah 51 and 19. Let's read this real quick before I show you what we'll be talking about today. This is speaking of Israel right now. The portion of Jacob is not like them. We're different. For he is the former of all things. So if our God is the creator of all things and we were made in his image, that's right, folks. We are the former of all things here. When it comes to music, when it comes to ingenuity, when it comes to all those things, folks, we have always been the trendsetters. Our people Judah literally built Wall Street with our hands. We built Wall Street. The wall that's called Wall Street, we built it. And Israel is the rod of his inheritance, and the Lord of hosts is his name. And then it tells us that thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. So the Most High can use Judah to do what? To battle on every level. On every level, but it has to be under the hedge of the God who have blessed us and or for disobedience cursed us. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war, and for with thee I will break in pieces the nations, and with thee I will destroy kingdoms. Folks, this is why they keep a close eye on Judah. They understand Judah's power. So they're seeking to control it, which leads us to our talking points today. Our talking points. I'm going to go over this in Patreon today. How did they break Judah? How African male slaves were raped by slave owners and dealers. A bitter history. We're going to talk about this. How taking the masculinity from a nation or from a man, what that projects to the rest of the world. A broken man is a broken nation. So don't ever believe it's about choice, giving people the right to be able to explore themselves. It has everything to do with the optics of look at the men we've broken. Okay. Men who've been violated and have been turned has always been an ancient war tactic to take over a nation. Okay, to take over a people. That jailhouse type of atmosphere, folks, that all came from slavery. I'm going to talk about the experimentations today. I'm also going to talk about the father of gynecology from the History Channel, who performed shocking experiments on our women. Yeah, there he is right there. The medical doctors. His name, his techniques, all of that. Who cloned Tyrone? I want to get away from the clone thing and let you know, go real time into the real time experiments. Has those experiments stopped up until this point? We're going to find out. The father of modern gynecology. We're going to talk about this and more, right? Today. We're going to talk about that. How? That's right. They had to put a designated emphasis on that beautiful daughter of Zion you all see before you. Break the man. Take away his masculinity, right? Judah, take his power and focus on her right here. Create something different than the daughter of Zion. See? We're going to talk about this. Why? Because these experiments have been well known. Have these experiments stopped? The Alabama surgeon in 1845 preparing to begin experiment operations on slave woman. Have they achieved their goals in experimentations? Huh? We're going to talk about that. Are we an experiment? And if so, how do we break the experiment, which is the curse? Not only, brothers and sisters, hit that like button real quick before I segue. Right? So they focused on, I would say, the ignorant or naive amongst our people whom they could break. But there was always a segment of our people separated from all of this. There were always strong men throughout each generation seeking to break free from it all. And women who would rather die than to acquiesce to someone's experiment. There have always been powerful men and women, but none of that is ever what? Talked about or explained within our history books, right? Because it's the wrong message. The only message the enemy wants us to see are the defeated, are the experimented on, or the weak. So they knew that there was some of us who were spiritually sound, fiscally sound. After slavery, what they did was they did an end around. There was a 19th, after slavery, after World War I and World War II, they realized that there was a certain number that was circulating financially strictly amongst our people alone. Fair use. Check this out, folks. The secret of selling the Negro is what we're going to talk about. When I segue over with the phone calls, we're going to look at this together. So because there were strong people whom they couldn't experiment on or deceive, they did an end around for those who own property and all these things. That's right. They would sell our people, the strong of our people. When I say the strong, family oriented. That's right. spiritually rooted in God, of high academia, as well as, that's right, the strong businessmen. They had to find a way to do what? Sell these people into the image of the beast. Listen to what I'm telling you. And while we were chasing the city through the industrial age, they did an end around to take all the property our people vacated. How much money was circulating amongst Judah in the south? Check this out. Fair use. Presented with the cooperation of the Johnson Publishing Company, fair use. We acknowledge with thanks the cooperation of the United States Department of Commerce, folks. This was a regular television production in 1954. A government production. How many of you still believe the government of propaganda isn't behind a lot of what we're witnessing on TV and all these others? In preparing this film, fair use for educational purposes.
Hello, I'm Bob Trout. I've got a story here that I think is big, really big, because it's bound to have a terrific impact on business. I'm talking about a new market, a big new market, millions upon millions of new prospects with $15 billion to spend.
At this time, folks, we were spending $15 billion amongst ourselves in 1954. Who knew this? $15 billion that was just being circulated amongst our farmers, our blacksmiths, all of this, that's right, our land planners. Who knew this?
That's right, I said 15 billion. That's a lot of money, isn't it? The surprising thing is that it's a fresh market, still full of opportunities. It grew up so fast, got so big in a hurry, that few of us realize its scope. Now, these days, nobody's likely to pass up chances to sell. And yet right here in our own front yard, there's a neglected market. There's money waiting to be spent. To get the story of this market, to be able to tell you the secret of selling the Negro, we did a lot of digging. We talked.
Look how brazen this was back then. This was a PSA to the businessmen, right? In order for us to sell the Negro, that's how overt they was with this. You know what? I like them better like this. Okay? Because at least they were telling us their intentions for us. See, but these liberal ones are worse than this, but have learned the art of psychology in order for us to trust them. Right? In order for us to trust them, they've used psychology. I like them better like this in 1954. Tell me how you're going to sell the Negro, please.
There's money waiting to be spent. To get the story of this market, to be able to tell you the secret of selling the Negro, we did a lot of digging. We talked to leading businessmen, to customers, and to salesmen. We went to Washington, D.C. We set up cameras and other key points around the nation.
Fair use.
And out of this all, there emerged a story, the story of a new market. Yes, this is the market we're talking about, the new Negro family. Their name is Wells or Wilson, Smith or Brown or Alexander or Breen. They live in Chicago, in Atlanta or New York, in Detroit, St. Louis, Los Angeles, any one of 1,000 cities and towns. All over the country, families such as this are enjoying new prosperity. They have new interests, new standards of living, a buying power they've never enjoyed before. There are good prospects for practically all types of goods and services. All too often, though, they're overlooked prospects. Why? Because of some good, valid reason? No. They're overlooked because of mistaken ideas, because of out-of-date ideas about how the Negro lives and how he buys. The truth of the matter is that the Negro lives pretty much the same as other folks. He buys pretty much the same way.
Someone says that guy was Spanish. He wasn't Spanish. His name is Trout. Okay? Trout. That the person who's speaking is Jewish. Okay? Not that it makes any difference, but I just wanted to set the record straight.
Before. There are good prospects for practically all types of goods and services. All too often, though, they're overlooked prospects. Why? Because of some good, valid reason.
They're overlooked prospects. I need y'all to listen to this. They're overlooked prospects.
Yes, this is the market we're talking about, the new Negro family. Their name is Wells or Wilson, Smith or Brown or Alexander or Breen. They live in Chicago, in Atlanta or New York, in Detroit, St. Louis, Los Angeles, any one of 1,000 cities and towns. All over the country, families such as this are enjoying new prosperity. They have new interests, new standards of living, a buying power they've never enjoyed before. There are good prospects for practically all types of goods and services. All too often, though, they're overlooked prospects. Why? Because of some good, valid reason? No. They're overlooked because of mistaken ideas, because of out-of-date ideas about how the Negro lives and how he buys. The truth of the matter is that the Negro lives pretty much the same as other folks.
The truth is the matter is the Negroes live and buy just like all us regular folk. Folks, the reason why they had to sell this, folks, is to undo how they sold us, how they portrayed us before this. And making the world believe that we had no ingenuity, we were 3/5 of a man, and that through evolution it was okay. That's right. It was all right to treat us as what? Less than people. It was all right for them to treat us less than based on the science of eugenics, claiming that the black man just haven't evolved yet. That's what happens when you listen to their junk, stupid science. And the reason why they have to sell us as regular people now, because these are the same people who sold us as beasts at one point. To the degree where they were suffering, their economy was suffering, folks. That's right. White people and others during this time thought it was less than or repulsive to do business with us. We don't do business with these. They're less than people. And the businessmen were looking at it and saying, hold up, that's $15 billion. In order for them to be circulating $15 billion amongst them, there must be some intelligence that we haven't told you about. Organizational skills that we didn't promote because we wanted you all to see them as less than people. Folks, we were always civilized. There was never a time we weren't. So now they see the 15 billion, that takes organization, right? That takes nation building. They say, listen, we have to sell white people in particular a different image of the black man to get hold of that money. And what do? We left our land that's worth trillions now in the South for the projects, to live in the city, to rent, and we lost all of that property due to taxes and all that. And now they did an end around, and now they own our property now, folks. Let's hear that once more. I got a segue, but I have to go to Patreon. I'm gonna finish this on Patreon.
Yes, because of out-of-date ideas about how the Negro lives and how he buys. The truth of the matter is that the Negro lives pretty much the same as other folks. He buys.
The Negro lives just the same as other folks.
Buys pretty much the same way too.
He buys pretty much the same way too. You can now do business with them because what? That's right. The image we are portraying of them. The power of media. If they sell us as animals, the world will believe we're animals. But if they sell us as we are, then we're accepted. There's more of us like this than what they're portraying through mainstream today. But you know what? What we're seeing here, the family with morals, a strong foundation, a name, folks, that's becoming a dying breed. They couldn't sell this image if it wasn't actually happening. And what proved that our image was pristine compared to any other people, including white people at this time, was the bottom line. If they didn't understand anything, they understand money. And we were producing in 1954.
But just the same, a lot of old doubts and opinions keep cropping up over and over again.
I don't like to do business with Negroes. They're drifters. You can't keep track of them.
Yes, although a lot of people think that way, the truth is that 1 out of every 3 Negro families living in cities today owns its own home. That figure...
Check that out, folks. The negative opinion came, and then he says, well, hold up. 1 out of every 3 Negroes own their own home. 1954. What happened?
Here comes directly from the United States Bureau of Census.
Maybe so, but Negroes are poor credit risks.
Not more of a credit risk than any other group. Actually, the Negro home buyer meets his payments faithfully. Often.
I got to leave it there because I want to do this for my loyal Patreonies. We're going to talk about this. Today, the black dollar doesn't circulate like it should. It's time to put your money where your mouth is. The racial wealth gap isn't going anywhere in the wake of the pandemic and protests for racial and social justice. Black businesses continue to remain a fragile curtly in the eyes of the economy. The dollar in the black community is inconsistent, and the racial wealth gap could take decades to bridge. The common reoccurring statistic in money circulation within communities, according to the NAACP and other organizations, suggests that the black dollar is unregulated. Studies say that the average lifespan of the dollar is approximately 28 days in the Asian communities, 19 days in the Jewish community, 17 days in the white community, and just 6 hours in the black communities. You see what happens when Judah listens to them? Do you see what happens when Judah listens to them? Right? We were 15 billion spiking up in 1954 before they sold us a bad bill of goods to make us believe that what? The cities would give us upward mobility when, folks, at the end of the day, land has always been the key. Because as long as you have land, you have food. Okay? We were regulating our own produce and all of that on our lands, trading amongst each other, and had the best farms. That's right. We had great farms at this time. This is why they created groups and others, allegedly like the KKK and other satanic white nationalist groups, to disturb our progress. That's the power of Judah. When Judah stand up, like it says in Genesis 49, the whole world pays attention. How do we get back? How do we get back to this? I'm going to talk about that on Patreon, right? We're going to go into it. How they control us. The man, by doing what? Showing Judah in particular as a defeated man, as an effeminate man. That's part of their warfare. They'll get enough like this and they'll promote that as the norm. Folks, guess what? Atlanta doesn't represent Judah. But this is what the media and the others have created in this experiment to portray us as less than. Created what they would call a black Mecca to embarrass us throughout the earth, to switch our image, to make us look less than. In a time where Judah is rising up. Folks, Atlanta was strategic. Because if you just show what's going on in Atlanta, that would give what? That would give a negative view internationally of who we really are. But they got all the cameras stuck in Atlanta misrepresenting us to make you believe that all men are effeminate or have been broken. Then we're going to talk about gynecology. The father of it performed shocking experiments on enslaved women. This is history, folks. I'm going to talk about this today. Can we trust them now after what they've done to us? You'll be a fool. And they did a special experiment on these sisters. Not just their bodies, but their mind. And have scared them into what? Through fear. Have driven the psychology of our women to trust the system when it comes to health and all others. This would be the driving force that they would use to push their agendas in our homes. Now look at our people in the communities. Now look. With our own food, our own money, and now we're sick, high blood pressure, this, and this. And guess what? It's not from a lack of health care, folks. It's because of the psychology, how they've driven us through fear to trust in what they're doing. That's the most I can say on this platform. But right here was their secret sauce. And this is nothing negative about women. Let me make it clear. This is nothing negative about women. This is the reality. If you create a matriarchy where the lion isn't dictating the progression of the family like it once was in 1950 and before then eventually the whole thing will spiral out of control if you have what? People in position who make all of their all of their I would say they attempt to correct or deal with their problems through fear. You can't have a woman over a community. The men are broken, buck broken, and then the women are operating out of fear. All the government have to do is do what? Steer the community through fear. And this is why it tells us in Genesis 49, Judah stooped down as a lion. Who will rouse him up? What you expect from a community being ran by women? Okay? This is why they will incentivize it, because they know it leads to total destruction. That was the experiment right there. If we can get this woman from under this man, let me show you. This is how it was in 1954. Once more before I segue over. Look at this family. Department of Commerce.
Hello, I'm Bob Trout. I've got a story here that I think is big, really big, because it's bound to have a terrific impact on business. I'm talking about a new market, a big new market. Millions upon millions of new prospects with $15 billion to spend. That's right, I said $15 billion. That's a lot of money, isn't it? The surprising thing is that it's a fresh market, still full of opportunities. It grew up so fast, got so big in a hurry, that few of us realize its scope. Now, these days, nobody's likely to pass up chances to sell. And yet right here in our own front yard, there's a neglected market. There's money waiting to be spent. To get the story of this market, to be able to tell you the secret of selling the Negro, we did a lot of digging. We talked to leading businessmen, to customers, and to salesmen. We went to Washington, D.C. We set up cameras and other key points around the nation. And out of this all, there emerged a story, the story of a new market. Yes, this is the market we're talking about, the new Negro family. Their name is Wells or Wilson, Smith or Brown or Alexander or Breen.
Folks, this is before the feminist movement of 1960. Look how beautiful this is.
Live in Chicago, in Atlanta or New York, in Detroit, St. Louis, Los Angeles, any one of 1,000 cities and towns. All over the country, families such as this are enjoying new prosperity. They have new interests, new standards of living.
Look at the sisters, the daughter with the mother, pulling out the dress that they probably, now that before this, they would make their own dresses, but now they're shopping and they're doing things together, separate from the men, very feminine, loving, nurturing, right? But this was let me tell you, he was just packaging how our people were operating amongst each other, folks. He was selling white people to accept our business. 15 billion.
A buying power they've never enjoyed before. They're good prospects for practically all types of goods and services. All too often, though, they're overlooked prospects. Why?
Now, we were able to make our own money, folks. We was able to save and circulate the money. Why? Because guess what? Our women and daughters and all that were making the dresses. See? We were making our own clothes. Our hats for church, we were making it all. I need you to think about that. Don't forget that we built the plantations. Those nice suits that the plantation owners had and all those others, folks, that was before convenience stores. The nice long dresses the white women were wearing on the plantation, we were making those dresses. We were the seamstress. Our sisters aren't, let me tell you, they are not a joke when they put their mind towards something. So if you look at all the nice clothing back in colonial days and all that, who do you think was making that stuff? That was our sisters. Right? But let's make the dresses and have them buy them, and we can kill two birds with one stone. We'll take away a skill so that they cannot clothe themselves. They'll lose the skill of women dressing the earth, dressing their own people. I remember growing up, home economics was a thing. The men would learn a trade, wood shopping or others, and the girls was cooking and sewing, making their own dresses and all that. And I'm not just talking about some rinky-dink stuff, folks. Okay? We had some pants back then called Joes or Palmettos. And guess what? The Italians were making theirs, but when we went to get our telemades from the sisters, guess what? It paled in comparison what the Italians can do based on the palmetto pants, and we used to call them Joes in Philadelphia. We used to go to sister shops, and they would make us the nice slacks and all that.
Because of some good, valid reason? No. They're overlooked because of mistaken ideas, because of out-of-date ideas about how the Negro lives and how he...
Look how they studied us. Look how they studied us, Judah. We're so important. It's prophecy, folks. We're so important. The world goes as we go. And guess what? It's not downplaying the importance and contributions of other people. But we have to understand the spirit the Most High have placed in Judah. We are trendsetters. We are changers. And it's upon us to use this gift the Most High have given us for the positive now. The enemy have incentivized us to use this influence to self-destruct. That's all I have to say before going, because I have a lot to talk about on Patreon. I'm going to open up these lines, but before that, we're going to leave it with a scripture. We're going to leave it with a scripture before segue in. Leave it with the word of God. Jeremiah 51 and 19, the portion of Jacob is not like them. For he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. The Lord of hosts is his name. So if our God created everything, he would make us as the trendsetters in representation of him, being made in his image. And folks, the numbers bear out. The numbers bear out, folks, of what happens when it comes to success, ingenuity, and building when our people are left alone. We done went from what? 16 billion before 1954 circulating strictly amongst us during segregation because no other people wanted to do business with us, to our dollar circulating 6 hours in the community every day. Esau have accomplished what he wanted. That's right. Squeezing every last cent that was left out of Judah. And the Bible tells us money is a defense. Money is a defense. Now, the love of money is the root of all evil. Money is not to be loved. It's to be utilized as a defense. See, if you have a treasury, you can buy protection. Okay, this is how the government have mercenaries and all these others. If you got money, you can have an army. You don't have to fight. If If you have money, you have upward mobility, and money brings choices. And they took that from us. They sold us a dream, the image of the beast. Can we get it back? Absolutely. And all of us aren't going to participate in this because why? Many of us don't want it. But for those who are willing to stand in our Father's place as Judah and exercise the gift that comes with the ingenuity God has placed in our DNA, I'll tell you this. If you want it, you can have it. Let's leave it here and I'll go to Patreon. But we must organize under the Spirit of the Almighty. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. The enemies will keep us close. Thy father's children shall bow down to thee. Now, this prophecy is speaking of Christ, but it's also speaking of what? The trend setting that comes from Judah. You notice how all the other people, and I'm speaking of culture vultures, how they have what? A designated eye on how we move in the communities. Have y'all noticed that? When we rap, they want to rap. When we put on certain clothes, they want to try to look like us. Do you notice that? We're the trendsetters. Suppose we use that trend setting for good. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou have gone up. That means we used to be predators. And I'm talking about in a righteous sense, not preying on people, to destroy other people. That means go-getters, innovators. Okay, we've gone up from the prey. I'm talking about the men in particular, competitive. We were competitive. There's no way we can sit around all day smoking marijuana and getting drugged out without not operating with a drive to succeed. A lion gets up every day to what? To rule, to take what belongs to him. And we've gone up from the prey. And this is what our God is saying. That Judah, you're slacking. It's not that everyone else are better. You're not the go-getters you used to be, Judah. You left a void for them to take. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down and he couched down as a lion and as an old lion, like being tired. No ambition. And this is for the brothers. You wonder why women are trying to take the lead. All women that are trying to take the lead or seeking to lead isn't feminist. They aren't feminists. They understand the spirit of a helpmeet. And they're trying to drive you so that they'll have something to help meet. And before they drown, before they sink and are homeless, they will take the wheel. They will take the wheel and hold it tight to keep their house steady. But when a woman want to push a man to be ambitious, she's only doing what? Helping you become the king God prophesied you would become. So you can't look at the woman who's trying to keep the house together and all that as some type of enemy. She's doing it because what? She's doing it because you won't take the wheel in a lot of instances. In a lot of instances. A lot of men have accepted the image of being buck broken, of staying buck broken, defeated. And I'm going to say this to you, brothers, real quick. I can expect women to some degree to come with excuses. Okay, why? Because women are the weaker vessel and they don't want to admit when there's a fault. It magnifies with them if there's a fault. So if a woman make an excuse, that's one thing. But there's no excuses for men. Okay? When a man is given an excuse of why he isn't achieving or why he isn't doing his place according to what God gave Adam, he told Adam, that's right. You're going to plow, you're going to work. The earth is going to increase as you put a hand into it. And then she'll bring forth her bountiful fruit. So if you don't work, Judah, you don't eat. If you don't work, that's right. If you're making an excuse of why you can't achieve something for your family, guess what, folks? Guess what? That's less than a woman. Because a woman isn't going to see her house fall. And it's a shame. A woman would very well give her body in this world to sustain and demean herself before falling. And if that's the case, how wrong it is. What excuse do men have? What excuse do men have? So we can't complain about what women are doing when that's right, when the Most High have given us, that's right, the spirit of Judah. Learn about our Father, the ambitious spirit. He's the reason why Esau have set up a system to keep us down. Understanding what? Understanding Judah's possibilities. Judah was meant to rule. Folks, there's nothing worse than a man with excuses. You have too many things going for you. You're strong. You have wit. You have intelligence. You're stronger than women. You have the gift of Judah in you. There's no excuse not to produce. Well, this is why I'm doing. No, I cannot, brothers. I'm just saying. Excuses aren't for men. Period. You must produce. Obedience comes with what? Having something she can help meet. That's where subjection comes into. You don't get submitted to strictly for being a man. What have you produced for her? What have you produced? See? So we're going to talk about that. Next week, in our roundtable, singles roundtable, week 7 in the academy, we'll talk. Because, hey, at one point, the so-called Negro family was the family to watch out for in America. Upward mobility, finances, the woman was in her femininity, and the men produced. And it was to a degree where Esau could not hide it and began to sell us to them and saying, listen, these people have made 15 billion circulating amongst themselves, by themselves, without any of our help. And how do you know that? It was a time that white businessmen were separated from black businessmen. And from nothing, from chattel slavery, we were kicking their behinds. We were kicking their behinds. They had Europe behind them. They had all of these things behind them. And we left slavery with nothing and was circulating in 1954, $15 billion amongst us. And the women didn't have to work outside of doing what was needed for the house and what her husband gave her insight to produce on the land. She would wash, she would clean, she would help in the garden, she would help nurture and nurse the children. And we had what, 10, 15 children, folks. That was employees. That was like building your own name, your own business. The more children you had, the more you can get out of the land. And they looked up. Esau looked up and said, you know what? We need to bring in segregation. Don't think it was about Martin Luther King and all this other stuff, folks. We had our own. You had Black Bottom in Detroit. You had Tulsa, Oklahoma. We were running Harlem. Judah is no joke left alone. So they came up with this so-called desegregation so that they can get access to what we have and only to put us back in the poorhouse. That's it. That's all I have to say. I'm on a diatribe. I'm ranting at this point, but let's go over to Patreon and let's look at this together. The New Negro Family. How to sell a Negro. That and more on Patreon. See you there. If you're interested in the Academy, go to historytimes.org. I'm going to tell you, the next 6 weeks is going to be like you've never seen, and we're going to have the discussions that we should have had the whole time here in Babylon within that Academy next week. I'm going to tell you that right now. So with that, I'm going to say shalom. May the Most High be with you. Stay prayed up, sin not. I pray for all of you. I pray for you, brothers and sisters. And brothers, only thing I'm saying is not blaming, right? What I'm saying is, to you, brothers, assume your position. Assume your position, and please, never take failure. Never accept failure. Have ambition with a plan. And I'm not talking about worldly ambition. It starts with our connection with our God first. And ask the Most High, okay, I've tried it my way, guide me. I want to enact what our forefathers were able to when we were once connected to the throne. Ask the Most High, give me something to help me. Give me an idea and I'll execute it. And if you have ideas out there, okay, and you're moving those ideas, I'll tell you right now, I'll support it. We'll take our platforms or whatever and support it and say, listen, this person is doing good. Go support and help this person, this person's products or whatever the case is. Now, I'm not talking about you calling us so that we can invest in what you're talking about, or not just invest, an idea that we have to carry. And now I have more work based on your idea. No, you go to the Most High, get your idea going and moving, and we'll support it. We'll support it. With that, may the Most High be with you. See you on Patreon. Patreon/AGathering144. And what I'll do is I'll open up the lines in between this. 515-605-9327. How to sell the Negro is what we're going to talk about. It's a PSA out there. And let's view it. Especially in light of who cloned Tyrone. Are we still under an experiment? Shalom. See you on Patreon.